the lost years and unknown origins of Christ. Hashtag part 1.
We have heard so many tales, so many scriptures concerning the biblical text concerning Jesus. Someone who I will call today Yeshua. Because of course, at the time of his historical accounts, there was no J in existence. So that's why I will be referring to who we call Jesus as Yeshua. Yeshua ben Miriam, as they would have said in the days of him walking the earth. Now, when I go up to the historical account, I'm going to go more into things that usually aren't spoken about as far as the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I'll be discussing more of the apocryphal texts, the hidden or the lost years of Yeshua, son of Mary. And the reason why is because I would like to touch on a full spectrum of this man that we have heard about all of our lives, who's had such a large impact. So I won't necessarily be coming from a religious perspective, but more of a historical origin. Now, the earliest accounts of a virgin birth, of course, we would go back to Krishna. Now, that's a 5,000-year belief system. Now, also, we could also mention between Enki and Enlil, as far as the brothers, and we can connect that to the Mormons, because in the Mormon books of their origin story, Yeshua and Lucifer are twin brothers. They have a whole galactic federation thing going on, and as twins, and you know that's similar in Enlil and Enki. And also, if you want to talk about Cain and Abel. So I will be touching on that when we're talking about Christ, the origins. I'll be touching on his Kemetic origins, Egypt. Now his mother, Mary, and her cousin Elizabeth, which is the mother of John the Baptist, they have a history in Egypt concerning the Aquarian Gospels. And Mary and Elizabeth were students of the mystery school in Egypt. So we can go there. But what I want to go to is what many would consider his first miracle. And we can either go Quranic or we can go in the Apocrypha text. But I would like to mention in the Quran that it states that Yeshua, or Isa, as far as the Quran, spoke in the womb, spoke from the womb, and spoke as a child. So that is technically the first miracle. The second one was in the apocryphal text when he was taking birds from mud, or taking mud and forming it into birds and doves. That's another detailed miracle that he did. And when he was making these birds from the mud, his friend that he was out there with by the river knocked it out of his hand. And of course, as a child, Jesus was around 6 years old. He got angry and he struck his friend on the head and he died. And of course, in Bethlehem at that time, there was or maybe it would have been Nazareth. Around that time, it caused a big confusion in the village. So when Mary and Joseph came, they scolded Jesus, or Yeshua. And of course, his documented miracle was that he rose that young kid from the dead that he had killed for knocking the bird out of his hand, that he had turned the mud, that he turned into a bird. So that's something, of course, that the Council of Nicaea took out later on in around 300 AD. These were called the Apocrypha texts because, of course, people wouldn't have been able to understand how Jesus murdered and then resurrected someone. And then, of course, in the lost years, we know during those times missing in the Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, between 5 and let's say 12, he was said to take pilgrimages to possibly Kemet, like his mother did, as I mentioned earlier. And he also went to India. Some even say Asia. So these are travels that he did, and this could probably give us an understanding of why he was so knowledgeable. He was so connected to nature, walking on water, raising people from the dead. Now, in the biblical text, they said that that was the reason why the Romans put a hit out on him, because of his so-called first miracle when he rose his friend Lazarus from the dead. So this is very interesting as we get on Yeshua ben Miriam, also known as Jesus Christ. Now, one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that the bloodline that Yeshua comes from can link all the way back to Aaron, brother of Moses, through the priesthood. Now, through this priesthood, it also goes, of course, linking to Joseph. And Joseph's bloodline, and not only that, but Mary's bloodline also reaches. But one of the two famous kings that are directly linked to Mary and Yeshua is King David and Solomon. And of course, we know King David is the giant slayer, the slayer of giants, the second king ever of Israel, after Saul, who was the first. And David, of course, is known for writing Psalms. He was also born in Bethlehem. And then we have his son Solomon. Through Bathsheba, he had a son named Solomon. 300 wives, 700 concubines, wisest man to ever live. Now, these are direct descendants of Yeshua ben Miriam, also known as Jesus Christ. But of course, at this time in the Hebrew language, if we go from a chronological order, we would have Aramaic and Hebrew, Arabic, and then we would also have Greek, Latin, and then English. And that's when, during that time, the Council of Nicaea were putting together everything. So they took their Greek gods and joined them with the belief system of what they call Christianity now. So, of course, Yeshua, some kind of way, in Arabic it's Isa, but some kind of way Yeshua was connected to Zeus. And of course, we know Zeus, Jesus, Zeus, and then some kind of way they connected it. So I don't know linguistics good enough to know how Yeshua ever became Jesus, but I know for a fact that Jesus is linked to Zeus. So that kind of gives us an understanding of how they merged a lot of gods together at that time. Of course, we know Horus, Asar, Pythagoras, Krishna, Buddha, all of them have similarities to what we call Christ. And then connecting to the consciousness, of course, we know, rather allegorical or historical, Yeshua also taught his 12 disciples. And they, like Paul and Peter and all of these different disciples, were known for also manifesting and having miracles and raising people from the dead. And that's how I know that the Christ consciousness can come into play. But in the origin of Yeshua, in the Quran, it says that Isa, who is also Yeshua or Jesus, will be coming back, and he will pray with the Mahdi. So that's very interesting. Muhammad is not returning, but yet Isa, or Jesus, is the one who returns, according to Islam. So, worldwide, highly respected Yeshua ben Miriam, or Isa ibn Mary. But in all languages and all belief systems, this is the most honored. People pay reverence to Yeshua all over the world, and his origins are very mysterious. Now, I like to mention that in Revelation, it speaks of him as being the morning star, and Lucifer also being the morning star. So it's interesting that in the Mormon religion, that they connect Yeshua and Lucifer as twin brothers. And not to mention, just as a secondary addition to that, the founder of the Mormon religion was a third degree Mason. So he did have access to a lot of occult knowledge, going to Enlil, Enki, Horus, Asar, and a lot of connections to Osiris and as far as the zodiac connection. Of course, we know the Son of God can either be S-U-N or S-O-N. So astrologically, with the 12 disciples, the 12 months of the year, the Gregorian calendar, all of that comes into play in 300 AD when the Roman rulership merged everything and connected everything in the belief systems into one. But historically, Yeshua was a Hebrew from the tribe of Judah, linking all the way back to King David and Solomon. And as far as Aaron